This is Story Recapped. Today, I'm going to explain an action, crime, drama, and sci-fi film called Repeaters. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. In the recuperation facility, Kyle Halstead is woken up from his dream by a knock on his door. At the canteen, he meets up with Sonia, who's making her 90-second cut at the table's edge. It's making amends day, so it's stressing her out that they have to go to apologize to those affected by their dependency. Bob, their administrator, greets them and he walks past. Just then, Michael is tripped by a man seated on one of the tables while walking towards them. Kyle gets up to defend his friend and starts a fight until Bob quickly takes control of the situation. During group therapy, Bob encourages them to meet with the people affected by their dependency, saying it will be their door to recovery. Since it's mandatory for all rehabilitation facilities, they all need to participate, but he promises them a day pass for the entire week to do so. Later, Kyle waits in his car in front of her sister's school and gets out when he finally sees her walking out with her friends. However, Charlotte immediately hurries away, not wanting to talk to him. Just then, the school principal who knows about his troubled history warns him out of the premises. Meanwhile, Sonia walks into a hospital hallway and stops outside her father's room. However, she just stands by the door, unable to face her father. In Mission City Correctional Institution, Michael visits his father and tries to engage him in idle conversation. His father screams at him and blames him for getting him imprisoned. He threatens his life as he's carried away by correctional officers, leaving Michael in tears. Later that day, Bob urges Kyle to share his progress in a group therapy session, but he refuses to elaborate. A dispirited Michael then screams his distrust of the therapist's effectiveness and walks out. After the session, Kyle, Michael, and Sonia meet up outside. Just as Michael rants about how he hates Bob, the latter comes out and tells Sonia that she has a phone call. Sonia walks out in a daze a few minutes later and says her father is dead. Later that night, the three stew in their torment while a storm rages outside. Just as a broadcast is reporting about a man who threw himself off the Mission City Dam, the power is suddenly cut off. Stuck in the shower room, Michael fiddles with the light switch while Sonia tries her lampshade in her room. As Kyle tries to get the television out of its outlet, static energy strikes the three that knocks them out simultaneously. The next day, the three share the feeling of déjà vu as they witness the same sequence of events from yesterday. Sonia notes that the cut she just made on the cafeteria table is the 90-second one when it's supposed to be 93rd. Later, Sonia heads to the hospital again while Michael visits her father in prison. Michael just stares at him numbly while entirely aware of what he'll scream at him. Meanwhile, Kyle is parked in front of his sister's school, allowing her to walk away rather than approaching her. Then, the school principal knocks on his car's window, saying the exact words from yesterday. In utter confusion, he drives away. Then, it concludes with the same group therapy session, but this time, Michael laughs when Kyle says the same things as yesterday. Outside, the three share their utter disbelief and confusion. Kyle deduces that the previous night's storm might be the reason for the loop. They all don't remember anything after getting electrocuted last night. As expected, Bob walks out to announce a call from Sonia just as she dreaded. Fully convinced of the day's repeat, Michael suggests they should do something instead of just sitting around and wondering at nothing. Kyle remembers the news about the man jumping off the dam and decides to see if they can save him. When they arrive at the dam, they're too late to stop him as they see the man jump off. As they helplessly watch him fall to the raging waters, Michael smiles to himself. Later that night, Sonia and Kyle ponder about their situation. Kyle tries to give her comfort that at least she got to see her father again, but Sonia admits that she couldn't go into his room and see him. Sonia wonders why the loop happened, and Kyle tries to take her hands in comfort but she pulls away and walks out. The following day, Kyle wakes up and asks Bob what day it is. Bob answers that it's Wednesday, confirming that he's still in the loop. In their usual spot outside, Kyle deduces that the loop started when they got an electric shock on the first night. Sonia retorts with sarcasm that they should electrocute themselves again and walks out. On the other hand, Michael shows no signs of concern and says they should enjoy the moment and do whatever they want because it will eventually reset. Kyle remains skeptical, saying they shouldn't mess with it. The two proceed to a liquor store where Michael shoplifts. When they turn to walk out, the store clerk demands Michael to put back what he'd stolen. The store clerk angrily pushes them out when Michael refuses and claims ignorance. After stealing a car, the two drive off recklessly to Bob's house, then trash it with relish. Their vandalism is cut off when Sergeant Gerald Tibbs suddenly appears and catches them red-handed. Making good with his arrest, the sergeant mocks Michael that he's becoming like his dad. In the prison cell, the surgeon collects Kyle since his mother bailed him out. The surgeon then mocks Michael since no one's going to bail him. Meanwhile, Kyle's mother nags him out of prison. Kyle pays no heed to his mother and walks away without a word. Later that night, Kyle turns the television off when it shows the same report of the man's death at the dam. He looks up just in time to see Sonia at her window. Kyle shares that the day is weird but exhilarating. However, Sonia states that if the day does not repeat, he'll get a criminal record on top of his history with narcotics. Waking up on another day's repeat, Kyle asks Bob about the break-ins in the neighborhood. Kyle smiles his relief when Bob says nothing about it, confirming another reset. In the canteen, the three enjoys the predictability of the scenes and proceed to hurl insults at Bob loudly. Later that night, the three create havoc by making a scene at a bar and staging an armed robbery to the same liquor store Michael shoplifted from. Then, Kyle takes them to his previous dealer, Tico. When Tico opens the door, Kyle immediately spots his sister and her friend, Michelle. When Tico suggests that he did more than sell to Charlotte, Kyle sees red and attacks Tico, but he's no match at the latter's strength, so he gets subdued and sent away with a warning. Refusing to end their night, Michael leads them to a small cottage and tempts them with his narcotic of choice. Sensing their hesitation, Michael convinces them that the day will reset anyway. In their euphoria, the three enjoy their night under the stars. Michael shoots at cans while Kyle sits up front, watching Sonia dance with abandon. Michael sits with him and wonders about Michelle, but Kyle reminds him that she's a minor. He then takes a hold of a taser gun and contemplates. A while later, they return to Tico's, and Kyle tases Tico just as he opens the door. They drag him to a remote area where Kyle forces him on his knees at gunpoint and orders him to eat manure. Tico obeys with misery, swearing that he didn't touch Charlotte. Kyle slumps beside his car, deriving no satisfaction from his actions. They conclude their night by going to the dam. Michael tests his fate by crossing at the railings at the dam's edge. Kyle fearfully warns him that they're not sure if the day will repeat. Michael brushes his concerns off and successfully crosses the railings. He asks who likes to try next, and Sonia accepts the challenge. Kyle tries to stop her, but she shrugs him off. While crossing, Michael distracts her with his teasing until she loses her balance and tumbles down. Kyle is quick to catch her and screams for Michael's help. Michael just laughs it off and refuses to help. Soon, Kyle loses his grip and Sonia falls to her death. Kyle angrily fights Michael off, blaming him for her death. Completely unconcerned, Michael screams to the water that he'll see her in the morning. The following day, Kyle hurriedly dresses and runs to the canteen. He feels total relief to see Sonia at her usual spot. Michael asks her how it feels to die, but Sonia has no recollection. Traumatized by her supposed death, Sonia and Kyle mutually agree to stop testing their limits and instead focus on getting out of the loop. But Michael disagrees. He believes the loop is a gift. He storms off when Sonia and Kyle refuses to see his point of view. As Sonia and Kyle arrive back at the dam, Kyle asks her if she finds it weird that the loop happens when her father dies. In an unexpected moment, Sonia confesses to Kyle that she was long violated by her father, so she refuses to make amends with him. Just then, a man appears and climbs on the dam's railings, ready to jump off. The two manage to subdue him only to realize that it's a girl under the hooded jacket. Kyle and Sonia share their mutual satisfaction of preventing the girl's death on their way back. Kyle wonders if helping others is what they should be doing after all. Just then, a police car drives past them. Out of curiosity, the two follow. When they arrive at the scene, they find out that the girl was violated. The girl tearfully relays her story but notes that she doesn't recognize her attacker. Just then, Kyle realizes that the girl is Michelle. In a moment of comprehension, Kyle storms off with a confused Sonia in tow. Recklessly cutting off Michael's car with his, Kyle gets out and unceremoniously hit a bewildered Michael. Kyle screams at him for taking advantage of a minor. Michael defends that it was consensual and that it doesn't matter anyway because the day will repeat as if nothing happened. Kyle retorts that it doesn't make it acceptable. Angered by Kyle's hypocrisy, Michael taunts him with their stint at the liquor store and Kyle's torture of Tico. Michael declares he'll make the most out of their situation and warns them not to intervene. On another repeat, Kyle waits for his sister again, though Sonia is with him this time. Charlotte still refuses to talk to him, but Sonia manages to sweet-talk her into joining them for a meal. At the diner, they enjoy their meal in comfortable and idle talk when Michael walks in, ruining their mood with his rude remarks towards Kyle. Just then, Surgeon Tibbs walks in, so Michael greets him with insults. The two exchange comebacks until Michael pulls out his gun and points it at him. The surgeon and Kyle try to calm him, but Michael is beyond listening. Another cop enters the diner and is instantly shot dead by Michael. Then he shoots the surgeon before he can pull out his weapon. Michael escapes while Kyle tries to calm his sister down. At the next day's repeat, Kyle hurriedly arms himself with the broken stand of his chair. Kyle hits Michael in the head in an ambush, drags him to the basement, and ties him to a chair. Kyle tells Michael that they will all bear the burden of what he does. He tapes Michael's mouth and leaves him. Afterward, Kyle urges Sonia to visit her father, though she doesn't think it'll make any difference. She tries to go to her father's room but hesitates and leaves. Later, Kyle opens up to Sonia about his transgressions against his mother and sister to support his dependency. The man he owed money from broke into his home and beat his sister in front of him. To comfort him, Sonia holds his hand and admits that she hadn't allowed anyone to touch her for a long time. Tangled in their emotions, the two share a kiss. Back in the basement, Kyle tries to urge Michael to drink, but the latter stubbornly refuses. Figuring that Kyle finally made progress with Sonia, Michael reveals that she told him the same thing about not letting anyone touch her. He hints that he'd been intimate with Sonia before, earning him a punch from Kyle. Kyle then pleads with Michael to forget their troubles and find a deeper meaning in their situation. But Michael remains unconcerned and retorts with a complete sarcasm. Kyle makes another attempt to talk to his sister at their house, but she refuses. Back at the facility, Sonia comforts Kyle as he laments to another failed attempt to make amends with his sister. The two end up kissing, but Sonia starts to wonder if Michael is right, and it doesn't matter what they do since everything they do gets erased anyway. Waking up to another repeated day, Kyle gets a nagging feeling when he sees no signs of Sonia and Michael. Even Bob has no idea of their whereabouts. Arriving at Michael's cottage, Kyle finds Sonia and Tico tied up to a chair. Michael holds him at gunpoint and orders him to get a knife and slit Tico's throat. Michael threatens to shoot Sonia's leg if he doesn't do as he orders. Seeing Kyle's hesitation, he makes good of his threat and shoots her leg. The act fuels Kyle's anger, and he finally slits Tico's throat. Michael applauds him before leaving. After sending Sonia to the hospital for treatment, Kyle catches up to Michael just in time before he takes advantage of Michelle. The two engage in a fistfight until Michael shoots him in the stomach. Michael tauntingly tells him he'll see him tomorrow before he passes out. Kyle wakes up with a gasp on the next day and checks for a gunshot wound on his stomach. Later, Kyle accompanies Sonia to the hospital to finally see her father. Mustering the courage, Sonia walks up to his room. She tells him that he will die later that night, but she doesn't hate him anymore. She claims that she's there because she needs to move on in hopes that everything will change. Later that night, Kyle drives to his house with Sonia. He pleads for his mom to let him talk to Charlotte. She consents when he confirms that he's not under the influence. He walks up to Charlotte's room and sincerely talks his heart out, apologizing for not being the big brother he was supposed to be. He declares his love for her and promises her he'll be there for her from then on. The next day, Kyle doesn't find Sonia and Michael in the facility again, so he hurries to Michael's cottage. True to his suspicion, he finds Sonia tied up to the chair with Michael hovering behind with a syringe. Michael tells him it's more fun to torture him through Sonia than hurt him directly. Michael then declares that they'll play hide and seek, but he will torture them all day if he finds them. With no choice but to play along, Kyle and Sonia run while Michael chases them off in a bike, shooting like he's hunting them. The two hide behind a car when Michael closes in on them. Kyle and Sonia go out of their hiding and run away when Michael suddenly shoots a bystander. Michael instantly gives chase but loses balance when a tractor cuts in on his path. The driver worriedly hops out and checks if he's okay, but Michael shoots him with no remorse. Just then, snow falls from the sky. Michael looks up in confusion since it wasn't supposed to snow that day. Only then do they realize that the loop ended when Kyle and Sonia made peace with their families. After Sonia is treated for her wounds in the hospital, a policewoman approaches them. She drives them to Kyle's house, where Michael has taken Charlotte and her friends as hostages. The lieutenant in charge hands Kyle a phone to talk Michael into surrendering. Kyle tries to soothe him, but Michael is beyond reason. He knows that no jury will ever believe him about the loop and blames them for abandoning him. When Michael ends the call, Kyle forcefully makes his way into the house. Inside the house, he comes to a halt at the sight of his terrified sister as Michael holds her at gunpoint. Kyle pleads with him, but Michael shoots his arm. After confessing that he never intended to make amends with his father no matter how many days repeat, Michael shoots himself in the head. Outside in the snow, they watch Michael's body get wheeled away. Charlotte takes hold of her brother's hands and hugs him, finally able to forgive him. Charlotte and Sonia watch on as Kyle gets carried away to the ambulance for treatment. Just then, Michael is woken up in a sweat back in the facility, once again stuck in his own loop.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.